Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Katherine Knight was born and raised in an unconventional and dysfunctional family environment. Her mother, Barbara Ruffin, had been married to Jack Ruffin and lived with him in the small town of Aberdeen in New South Wales Hunter Valley. Barbara and Jack had 4 sons before Barbara began an adulterous relationship with Ken Knight, a friend and co-worker of her husband. The Ruffin and Knight families were well known in the conservative rural town, and the affair caused a major scandal. The local backlash forced Barbara and Ken to leave Aberdeen and move to Moree. None of her 4 sons went with her. The 2 older boys continued to reside with their father, while the 2 younger sons were sent to be raised by an aunt in Sydney. Barbara had 4 additional children with Ken, including twin girls born in 1955 in Tenterfield. Katherine Knight was the younger of these twin daughters. In 1959, when Knight was 4, Jack Ruffin died and his 2 boys, who had been living with him, moved in with Barbara, their mother. Katherine Knight's father was an alcoholic who openly used violence and intimidation to rape his wife Barbara up to 10 times a day. Barbara, in turn, often told her daughters intimate details of her sex life and how much she hated sex and men. Later, when Knight complained to her mother that one of her partners wanted her to take part in a sex act she did not want to perform, Barbara told her to put up with it and stop complaining. Katherine claims she was frequently sexually assaulted by several members of her family, though not by her father, which continued until she was 11. Although there are doubts about the details, psychiatrists accept her claims and the events have been largely confirmed by members of her family. Barbara's great-grandmother was an Indigenous Australian from the Moree area who had married an Irishman. Barbara was proud of this fact and identified as Aboriginal. This was kept a family secret, as there was considerable racism in the area at the time, and this was a source of tension for the children. Apart from her twin sister, the only person whom Knight was close to was her uncle, Oscar Knight, who was a champion horseman. She was devastated when he committed suicide in 1969 and continues to maintain that his ghost visits her. The family moved back to Aberdeen the same year. When she attended Muswellbrook High School, Knight became a loner and is remembered by classmates as a bully who stood over smaller children. She assaulted at least one boy at school with a weapon and was once injured by a teacher, who was subsequently found to have acted in self-defense. By contrast, when not in a rage, Katherine was a model student and often earned awards for her good behavior. Upon leaving school at 15, without having learned to read or write, she gained employment as a cutter in a clothing factory. 12 months later, she left to start what she referred to as her dream job, cutting up the entrails and internal organs of an animal used as food. At the local slaughterhouse there, she was quickly promoted to boning and was given her own set of butcher's knives. At home, the knives were hung over her bed so that they would always be handy if I needed them, a habit she continued, until her incarceration. Katherine first met hard-drinking co-worker David Stanford Kellett in 1973. He had previously worked for the railways at Coffs Harbour. His best friend was killed in front of him in a shunting accident, and he was later present when a train hit a school bus in Kempsey, killing 6 children, in 1968. He helped rescue the injured and remove the bodies. His heavy drinking has been attributed to these incidents. He began falling asleep at work and causing several derailments. As a result, he lost his job. He soon got work at the nearby slaughterhouse in the town of Aberdeen, where he became close friends with Katherine's brother. After he began dating Katherine, he also occasionally partnered up with her twin. Often, if David got into a fight, Katherine would step in and back him up with her fists. In Aberdeen, she was well known for physically threatening anyone who upset her. On their wedding night, Knight tried to strangle David. She later explained it was because he fell asleep after only having intercourse 3 times. On another occasion, a heavily pregnant Katherine burned all of Kellett's clothing and shoes before hitting him across the back of the head with a frying pan, simply because he had arrived home late from a darts competition after reaching the finals. In fear for his life, Kellett fled before collapsing in a neighbor's house, and he was later treated for a severely fractured skull. Police wanted to charge Knight, but she changed her behavior to ingratiating Kellett and talked him into dropping the charges. A few days later, Catherine slashed the face of a woman with one of her knives, demanding she drive her to Queensland to find Kellett. The woman escaped after they stopped at a service station. Catherine had taken a young boy hostage by the time police arrived and was threatening him with the knife. After police disarmed her, she was admitted to the Morisset Psychiatric Hospital. Catherine told the nurses she had intended to kill the mechanic at the service station because he had repaired Kellett's car, allowing him to leave. When police informed Kellett of the incident, he left his girlfriend and moved to Aberdeen with his mother to be closer to Catherine to fix his family. Catherine was released on the 9th of August 1976 into the care of her mother-in-law and, along with Kellett, moved to Ipswich, where she obtained a job at the Dinmore Meatworks. On the 6th of March 1983, they had another daughter, Natasha Marie. In 1984, Catherine left Kellett and moved, first to her parents' house in Aberdeen, then to a rented house in nearby Muswellbrook. Although she returned to work at the slaughterhouse, she injured her back the following year and went on a disability pension. No longer needing to rent accommodation close to her work, the government gave her a housing commission residence in Aberdeen. Catherine met 38-year-old miner David Saunders in 1986. A few months later, he moved in with her and her daughters, although he kept his old apartment in Scone. Knight soon became jealous regarding what he did when she was not around and would often throw him out. He would move back to his apartment, where she would invariably follow and beg him to return. In May 1987, she cut the throat of his 2-month-old dingo pup in front of him, for no more reason than as an example of what would happen if he ever had an affair, before going on to knock him unconscious with a frying pan. In June 1988, she gave birth to a third daughter, Sarah, which prompted Saunders to deposit a house when her workers' compensation came through in 1989. Catherine decorated the house with animal skins, skulls, horns, rusty animal traps, leather jackets, old boots, machetes, rakes, and pitchforks. No space, including the ceilings, was left uncovered. In 1997, Knight became pregnant again by a third man. 43-year-old former slaughterhouse co-worker John Chillingworth. She gave birth to a boy they named Eric. Their relationship lasted 3 years before she left him for a man she had been having an affair with for some time, John Price. John Charles Thomas Price, born the 4th of April 1955, was the father of 3 children when Catherine had an affair with him. Reputedly a terrific bloke, liked by everyone who knew him, his own marriage had ended in 1988. While his 2-year-old daughter had remained with his former wife, the 2 older children lived with him. Price was well aware of Catherine's violent reputation as she moved into his house in 1995. His children liked her, he was making a lot of money working in the local mines and, apart from violent arguments, at first, life was a bunch of roses. In 1998, Knight and Price fought over his refusal to marry her. In retaliation, she videotaped items he had allegedly stolen from work and sent the tape to his boss. Although the items were out-of-date medical kits that he had scavenged from the company rubbish tip, Price was fired from the job he had held for 17 years, as his boss had no choice. That same day, he kicked her out and she returned to her own home while news of what she had done spread throughout the town. A few months later, Price restarted the relationship, although he now refused to allow her to move in with him. The fighting became even more frequent, and most of his friends would no longer have anything to do with him while they remained together. In February 2000, Catherine stabbed him in the chest. Finally fed up, he kicked her out of his house. On the 29th of February, he stopped at the courthouse on his way to work and took out a restraining order in an attempt to keep her away from both himself and his children. That afternoon, Price told his co-workers that if he did not come to work the next day, it would be because Catherine had murdered him. Despite their pleas that Price should not return home, he stated that Catherine would kill his children if he did not. Price arrived home to find that Catherine, although not there herself, had sent the children away for a sleepover at a friend's house. He then spent the evening with his neighbors before returning home and going to bed at 11 p.m. Earlier that day, Catherine had bought new black lingerie and had videotaped all her children while making comments which have since been interpreted as a crude will. She later arrived at Price's house while sleeping and sat watching television for a few minutes before having a shower. She then woke Price, and they had sex, after which he fell asleep. The neighbor became concerned that Price's car was still in the driveway. His employer grew concerned when he didn't show up for work and sent a worker to see what was wrong. Both the neighbor and the worker tried knocking on Price's bedroom window to wake him, but they alerted police after noticing blood on the front door. Police arrived at 8 a.m. Breaking down the back door, police found Price's body, with night comatose from taking many pills. She had stabbed Price with a butcher's knife while he was sleeping. According to the blood evidence, he awoke and tried to turn the light on before attempting to escape while night chased him through the house. He managed to open the front door and get outside, but he either stumbled back inside or was dragged back into the hallway, where he finally died after bleeding out. Later, Knight went into Aberdeen and withdrew $1,000 from Price's account at an ATM. Price's autopsy revealed that he had been stabbed at least 37 times, in both the front and back of his body, with many of the wounds extending into vital organs. Several hours after Price had died, Catherine skinned him and hung the skin from a meat hook on a door to the lounge room. She then decapitated Price and cooked parts of his body, serving up the meat with baked potato, pumpkin, beetroot, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash, and gravy in 2 settings at the dinner table, along with notes beside each plate, each having the name of one of Price's children on it. She was preparing to serve his body parts to his children. A third meal was thrown on the back lawn for unknown reasons. It is speculated that Catherine had attempted to eat it but could not. This has been put forward in support of her claim that she has no memory of the crime. Price's head was found in a pot with vegetables. The pot was still warm, estimated to be between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius or 104 and 122 Fahrenheit, indicating that the cooking had taken place in the early morning. Please click the subscribe button so you can keep up to date with my channel. Thanks for watching and take care.